Do I reset the recording? No. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Spirit Chat with Mari and Winterbrook. And we're sorry we're a few minutes late, but you know, Mercury retrograde is alive and well. So we had some technical difficulties, which we've sorted to the best of our ability. And we're so glad that you're joining us either in person or listening to the recording. We're so excited today to welcome a dear friend of mine and a new friend of Mari's, Dr. Susan Barnes, who resides in Lilydale, New York, and is an expert on physical mediumship and is the organizer of this year's physical symposium.
Physical mediumship in Victorian times.
Thank
the
you.
The official title, right?
Thank you, Sue. I was having a little difficulty over here.
I sensed that, right.
So why don't we, before we jump into Sue, let us have Mari say a few words and welcome everyone as well.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Spirit Chat. Thank you for joining us today. I'm sorry about our little technical difficulties. So it's not exactly streaming on my Facebook, but you can still watch it there and try to post some questions if you are watching this now or later. My name is Mari Cartagenova, also known as Medium Mari, and I am a psychic medium and animal communicator. I also help to find lost pets with the help of spirits, and I'm honored to work with Winter on this show and welcome Dr. Sue to be our guest today. I'm all excited. I love physical mediumship. I don't have a lot of experience with it, but just the whole idea of it. I was talking to my husband. It's like, I would love to see a trumpet flying around. That would be so cool. So welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure that you'll have an opportunity sometime soon to see some trumpets flying around.
Awesome.
So speaking of trumpets flying around, I am so excited that Monday night, I actually got the trumpet to rise.
Wow.
It left the ground and then it started to spin. So I was so super excited, me sitting as the medium. So yippee, yippee, yippee. But we haven't really gotten it flying around. It just rose off the ground a little and twisted. But I was good. I was happy.
That's the first start.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because normally my physical mediumship is focused on transfiguration. And speaking of different types of physical mediumship, why don't we talk about the different types? Sue, could you explain to our listeners today what physical mediumship is and what to expect when sitting in a physical mediumship seance?
Well, physical mediumship is when the spirit world helps to usually manipulate something in the physical world. And, you know, that does hold true because even if you're doing direct voice, the spirit is manipulating the vocal cords and they usually form a spirit voice box. So they're manipulating the medium to be able to communicate those messages to the receiver. But there are many, many, many types of physical mediumship. It includes everything from what you commonly know as the Ouija board. I call them talking boards, spirit boards, to pendulums have some physical stuff in them as well. And in the seance room, the biggest one is materializations. When the medium uses their energy to create an ectoplasmic figure, like a figure that actually looks like this person from the spirit world. That's kind of the high end of physical mediumship. And then there's all the way from levitation to trumpet. The trumpets flying are part of that. levitation, direct voice, where you hear the direct voice of a loved one, to apports. Apports are when they physically bring through objects. That can come through a trumpet. It can come through the medium's mouth. It can come from the ceiling. It can come from all kinds of places. And you physically get an object like a gemstone, or necklace, rings. They do all kinds of things come through. Just little stones come through. And they're mostly, some of them can be glass, but they're mostly stone. They're not plastic.
Mhm. Wow.
And I've seen Michael Shane, who's a physical medium in the US, apport about 200 little stones in the
Yeah.
course of the seance.
Wow.
And actually, a funny story about that. When I saw Michael sitting as medium at up in Lilydale by Neil Rezkowski's house,
Yes, yeah.
at the end of the seance, he's guided by spirit to give away the apports to the sitters. And at one point, he announces, okay, these little red ones, and there were tiny little red stones, they're supposed to go to somebody who's helping someone cross over in order to bring that person energy and make the crossing process a little bit easier. So I just thought of my friend Ann Helen, who's 91, and she has cancer, and so it's just matter of time. And I stood up because you're excited, right? You're in the seance room. It doesn't matter if you're a medium in your own right, and that's what you do. It's just fun when somebody else is the medium. So and another woman stands up, and we go up to the front, and Michael's like, all right, and he starts dividing up the stones, and the other woman apparently works in the ICU. And then I thought to myself, oh no, I shouldn't be here getting these stones. They're probably all for her, because the point was we're supposed to give them out to the person who's transitioning. And then I felt so bad. And I said, oh geez. Well, I get home a couple of days later, and lo and behold, the first call I get was from one of my friends, and her best friend was just told by the doctors there's nothing further they can do with her stage 4 cancer. And she was asking me for help to find a new home for the cats. I said, well, I don't know about that. Call these people up, but I'm going to send you a stone. Okay. 2 days go by. Then I hear from my landscaper, and he said, can I come by for a check? And I said, sure, Danny, you want me to mail it? He said, no, would you mind if I came? I just found out my father's dying in Honduras, and I want to try to get there before he dies. So I taped a stone to his check. I said, Danny, I'm going to give you something for your dad. So the next day, I hear from a client I hadn't heard from in about a year and a half because of COVID. And he calls me up to tell me his uncle's passing away and he's starting to see people from the other side coming through. I said, oh, I have a little stone for you. I'm going to mail it to you. Would you please bring it to your uncle's? So what is the likelihood that that would happen? And so I felt a little better that I was supposed to get those stones, and I made sure I distributed them. And of course, I gave one to my dear friend Helen, and she treasures it. So anyway, I just thought that was a great story. The way spirit works to get what they want to get to whom they need to get it to. So.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's amazing because it's sometimes, we in our human mind think, oh, it has to go this way. Or you were talking about, oh, the ICU person should be getting it all. But, we don't know what they know on the other side. And so it's important to sort of trust those nudges and sort of be aware when those things happen and not like sort of second guess it, because they definitely have a better idea of how things are going on their side than we do here for sure.
I said to Michael Shane the other night, I said, the outports usually arrive when people need them. And there are different ways it can show up. It can show up through a medium. They can just actually physically show up in your space without a medium being present. I've had that happen. Or they can move objects around in your house.
Absolutely.
So, wouldn't another example of an apport be those feathers that mysteriously appear in your living room, or coins
Yes,
that
yes,
that
yes. The
drop out of
coins.
nowhere?
I mean, I've known people that have been able to get pennies to fall from the ceiling. That is a form of physical mediumship. There are also people that don't know they're physical mediums where this phenomena occurs. I know of a young girl who, when she would go in the kitchen, the dishes would all start flying around and moving around,
Wow.
which was something that happened to, I think, the Davenport brothers. That was something that happened to the Davenport brothers when they were developing.
That's
Now,
very cool.
how do you tell the difference, though, between spirit controlling things flying around versus, a highly emotional, psychic type person with their own kinetic energy?
Well, I think it's really difficult to try to do it, but I mean, I would say that I mean, someone who has the kinetic energy to kind of move objects and things probably could develop enough energy to do more physical mediumship because they have it in themselves. There is a theory that people who are physical mediums have a certain type of DNA or a certain type of something within them that most people don't have that enables them to do it. So if that's the case, then someone who has the disposition to become a physical medium might have phenomena happen around them and not even know they're doing it or causing it.
I can see that happening. Absolutely. How about you, Mary? Have you had experiences like that growing up?
Yeah, well, it's interesting as you're talking because I'm thinking about, I don't really consider myself a physical medium, but there's always stuff moving around my house. Like, the radio will go on and off, we'll be talking about my grandmother, or like the lights will go on and off. Or I remember when my grandmother passed and, she wasn't really a big writer, in terms of letters. I don't know if anybody writes letters anymore, but I have just a few, but I had them stashed like in the back of a drawer in the back, far away. I hadn't seen them in years. But right after she passed, one of her letters mysteriously showed up like, in my like little living room sort of area on the chair. And I was like, there's no way that this ended up here when I haven't seen this in 20 years. So I knew that it was spirit led. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess, I know she's one of my guides and she's always with me. So I was like, thank you, Nana.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So like, Sue, would that be considered like forms of physical mediumship, those type of things, or would it be considered something
Yeah, they
else?
are. They are. I mean, because as I said, and in my book on physical mediumship, I do have a section in the back that says physical mediumship in everyday life. And physical medium stuff occurs all the time for people, but they don't recognize it and they don't understand what it is. So yeah, so having a letter show up like that, what it's called is materialization and dematerialization. What the spirit world can do is they can take an object from anywhere, from historical times up until today, and they can actually make it physically manifest within the space or for the person. In fact, in one seance, one of the mediums had a piece of paper manifest in one of the sitter's hands. All of a sudden, the sitter was like, oh my goodness, there's something in my hand. When we looked at it, it was a ticket to the Panama Exposition of 1901 in Buffalo.
Wow. That's awesome.
Wow.
And the
Very
ticket
cool.
was pristine and look like it had not been used. So, because people said, "Oh, you can buy that on eBay." Yeah, but the ones on eBay were all smudged and looked like they were 100 years old, where this did
Yeah.
not look like it was 100 years old at all. So and look at Gary, when Gary materialized, and I know Winter knows this story. Gary materialized. Oh yeah, we'll talk about precipitation in a second. Materialized Bubba's wallet. He actually found a wallet. And a wallet was brought into a New York seance room that was lost in Ohio,
Wow.
along with all of the credit cards and everything that had been in the wallet. And this was a thud coming down from the ceiling. I mean, it was not something where the medium could have thrown it out of the cabinet. And it was his wallet, and it had been lost. So things like this, I mean, it's spirit dematerializing and materializing the objects. I mean, the other thing that we have to think about too is that if we misuse our apports, I mean, the apports are given to us with a certain vibration for the person. So you have, I mean, they're not meant to be sold, because Michael tells a story of how he apported a $200,000 diamond, and somebody actually did sell it. But what I
Wow.
worry about with that is it probably could disappear again.
What
Yeah,
happened to my diamond?
I mean, seriously,
That's
I would
funny,
be
though.
terrified selling. I mean,
Yeah.
I've taken his apports and made earrings out of them, and I've made necklaces out of the apports, but I wouldn't give them to anybody else because I would be afraid they would disappear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It really is. I mean, it's, a lot of people don't know about this, or maybe there are people that don't believe that it's real, but I know, I mean, anybody that knows me or Winter, we're pretty level-headed people. We're not walking around with our head in the clouds like, oh wow. And I've seen things. I know, Winter, you do things that are amazing, and it's just sort of expanding our mind and our spirit to recognize there's so much more, in this universe than we can see. And we're just a tiny speck, and just to be open to these other things that are possibilities in everybody's life.
Exactly. And one of the purposes of our conference is to try to educate people on what can and cannot be done with physical mediumship, and also educate them to be an informed viewer so that they can make an informed decision for themselves whether what they're seeing is real or not. There have been a lot of fakes, which is why physical medium was thrown out of Lilydale 75 years ago, and a lot of the fraudulent activity was coming from Camp Chesterfield. But they caught mediums, but I have to say they caught them with like cheesecloth up their sleeves,
Yeah.
trying to make it look like ectoplasm. They physically caught them out of the cabinet, trying to act like materializations. Plus, some of the mediums admitted outright that they did fraud. So there are things you can tell. I've seen fraudulent work done. I mean, I won't say who, but I saw
Of
fraudulent
course.
work done. And another key thing is that if the person's seance is continually the same, and this medium that was faking it had the same routine they did over and over again from seance to seance, that's not real. And there was no sense of spirit. That's the big one. If you're not getting any spiritual messages, if you're not getting anything at all that feels like spiritual awareness, then question it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, I've only been to one. I've been to smaller seances where things happen, but one really big seance, and I kind of agree that I won't mention who, but this one I went to, it just felt dead. It didn't feel like, and we know what it's like to be connected to spirit, and just didn't have that feeling at all. And afterwards it came out that this person also had been doing a little hokey pokey in in the seance room. So it's unfortunate, because I think it gives sort of a bad name to the people that are legitimately doing these things.
Yeah, and sometimes what happens is that the medium starts out legitimately, And then because they're trying to make a business out of it, they have to perform. So they start doing what we call mixed mediumship, where they use a few tricks, but they're using some of their talent as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, discernment is key, but as with all things, you can also have flat seances, which means that just there's no mediumship. And that night, there's just no connection. And it may not be the medium's fault. It may be the energy of the people attending. The same thing happens with mental mediumship. I'm sure you've run into this problem, Mari,
Sure.
as a reader, that, sometimes I had it a couple of weeks ago. I read for 3 sisters. It was supposed to be 2. And they all wanted something different. And it wasn't my best reading. And I was wiped out. I left. I went home. I then did another reading for somebody that was brilliant. And I just realized it wasn't me because it was back to back. So that can happen as well. The people in who the sitters can affect, and it becomes actually more difficult in the physical seance room if the energies are not harmonious. So if you go in with a bad attitude, even though it's only your attitude, it can still just affect the whole night. I think personally, if I do a dem in front of 50 people, I can have 1 or 2 bad apples and spirit and can still overcome it. But if you have 20 people in a physical mediumship seance and you got 1 bad apple, it can ruin it for the rest of them. So you need to go in open-minded and with the right attitude. That is so important, being a sitter at a physical, because the energy is more affected. It's easier to mess with it. But when it works, it is fantastic. And that's what I want to show next. And I'll have Sue talk about
this. This was an image that was precipitated by Gary Mannion in the seance room. Now, what Gary does is he puts some flat pieces of paper in the middle of the room. I don't know if he's got crayons or colors with him or not.
I don't know. I didn't see what was in the box. I just saw it was.
Yeah, well,
closed.
yeah, okay. He probably has a box. In the box, there are probably some crayons or markers or whatever. But he puts a flat paper on the floor in the seance room. And then all of a sudden, what you hear is this crumpling up sound, and the paper gets all crumpled. And then from the paper comes this precipitated image. Now we know it's precipitated because it's not fully developed right away. It develops over time as you take it from the room.
And Sue, I just put up on a screen share a picture of the precipitated image, which I identified as my dad. And then after the seance, when I got home, I went through a box of old pictures, and I was able to find one that, looked like the picture alone. That's my daughter when she was little. She's so cute.
So cute.
Now she's big.
So
this
cute.
is the doctor up in Boston your way.
The doctor. She's the doctor.
Yeah, she's the doctor going to India. She just got a really nice research program to participate in along with her doctoring, because she wants to do infectious disease. So you can see, I think, a little better on the screenshot than me holding up a picture of the original, that it's a pretty fair match. And what you may not see is, in addition to the picture, which did continue to develop over 24 hours, I took it home with me for the seance, or back to my room. Now, there are 6 names on the circling my dad's face. He was talking to me through the medium's guide in spirit. And the evidence that was coming through was mind-blowing. It was very unique, not anything anybody else knew. So I was kind of taken back by that. In fact, I was so impressed. I asked the medium's spirit guide, Mrs. Barnaby, if she would work with me to help enhance my own evidence for clients. Um, and the names that he listed are the 6 names of my father's children from his first marriage, my half siblings, which I never even mentioned them till now. And then he was talking about my dad's funeral, or my dad was talking about it, and he wrote down his epitaph, because when my dad was passed, I asked him, "What do you want on your tombstone?" And he came through with the Frank Sinatra song, "I Did It My Way." And that's what we had put on the tombstone. And my father did do it his way. When the neighbor's trees were blocking his sun, he just walked over, scaled the tree, and started cutting them. Never asked the neighbor. He just said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. If I break anything, I'll fix it." And they just like let him do what he wants. But that was my dad in a nutshell. And yeah, so I thought this was just fabulous between the evidence, and he was actually flirting with Mrs. Barnaby, which my dad has been known to do. He flirts even in spirit. He made a female spiritualist minister blush on the podium when she was bringing him through. And yeah, so I'll stop sharing. But I thought I have some pictures of different physical phenomena today too, for those that are watching. And I want to see if there's any questions.
Can I just say something about the precipitation? And what's really interesting is that the precipitated art that we've had in the past and in the present has really come from around the Great Lakes area in New York. And Gary did that when he was here in the around Lilydale, which is the Great Lakes area. And the Bank sisters and the Campbell's brothers, who are the two groups of artists that did precipitated art in the early 1900s, their precipitation, they actually would not create from photographs. They actually were asked many times to create a picture of the person because the individual didn't have a photograph of them. And so that was done they set up a library for a man in Pennsylvania, and he had died, and he was the namesake. So his widow came up to Lilydale and had the Bank sisters do a portrait of him for the library to put in.
Wow.
Yeah. And we know it's true. That was one of the later Bank sisters we found, because the guy who drove the woman here actually met Ron Nagy. So Ron met him and knows the whole story is accurate. But what's interesting about what Gary's doing is that they've kind of switched. In the early 1900s, the images were like pastel chalk drawings. Today, they're using more of a style of photography, and a lot of the pictures that Gary is precipitating, actually people have found photographs that resemble, like Winter did, that resemble the picture almost exactly. So he's working a little bit differently, but it's evolving.
Yeah, well, it's very, very impressive. I've attended a couple of Gary's seances. One was in Schenectady, and he did, it appear, have a full materialization. And then I saw one at Neil Respowski's outside of Lilydale, and it was different phenomena. So we had people being moved around that were in attendance. You have to hold hands with everybody, and knees to knees, so that no one's walking around. And usually it's done in the dark, although with Gary, certain parts of it, he'll have the light turned on and you can see the phenomena. Like we saw it in Schenectady, we saw the ectoplasm coming out of his mouth. And he does partial materializations where an arm will come out of the tent, which is used for a cabinet. and it'll take on the essence of someone who's passed on, so that individuals can come up. And not that I was chosen, but hey, I got the picture. I'm loving life here. But it was shared with me by those that did, that it was just beyond, and just heartwarming. And as lovely as it is to get a mental message from a medium, their firsthand interaction was even greater. So I fell in love with physical mediumship when I started studying mediumship with the NSAC and the spiritualist churches. And it just blows my mind to be able to witness physical mediumship, because it's very rare. And in fact, there's not many places that you can participate as a sitter. I'm on Long Island, so for us, there's not many people. There's a couple of physical mediums, but they're not sitting publicly. So you have to either go up to Lilydale, which is right outside Buffalo, or in Buffalo. There's now a nice Rotarian who's hosting in Schenectady. Otherwise, you're looking at Pennsylvania or Phoenix or Camp Chesterfield, Ohio, and Florida. That's most of them. I may have accidentally omitted a couple of locations that host it. My apologies. Or you can go over to England, the Netherlands, France, Australia. So it's not that many places, as opposed to mental mediumship. There seems to be a psychic night every single night of the week on Long Island. I don't know how, I'm assuming it's pretty much the same up in the Boston area where you are, Mari, and it's just not that available. So when someone like Sue puts together a 5-day symposium, it's all focused on physical mediumship and trance, as well as some fairies, because it's going to be at Lilydale, so we'll be on the fairy trail. Julie's going to talk about fairy. I love fairies and elementals because part of my physical mediumship practice is transfiguration, and I actually they will elongate. They make my ear appear larger. It actually waves to you, and that's when it's an elf that's in. It's kind of funny. People see it though. I mean, I've had 50 more people witness it. So I would encourage anyone that has some fascination with this topic to get a hold of Sue at her website, which I'm going to type in the chat room, spiritartgallery.net. Thank you. And no, I did type it and didn't type. So
it's Mercury retrograde, I'm telling you, it's crazy.
It is. You don't want to know what's been going
Naughty
on.
Mercury.
This is an opportunity that doesn't come along very, very frequently. We're going to have Gary Mannion, Michael Shane, and an up-and-coming new medium, Bill Bolt, who I have not seen, but I've heard wonderful things about, and Sue has seen him a few times. As well as Sue as the tutor, Julie Andreni, and myself will be tutoring. And it's set up in like the Arthur Finley style of classes and lectures. So you're going to be going from 9 in the morning until 9 at night. With, lunch break and dinner break. There are also going to be seances that you can participate in for an extra fee. I'm going to actually be up there on my birthday, so I'll be in a seance on my birthday night. And I really encourage people to do this. It'll be Father's Day evening through the following Friday morning.
Okay.
I think we're probably going to end on Thursday night because Julie and I have everything planned to do it. We're going to try to do an auction. No, a raffle, not an auction, a raffle. We're going to get some things. I have a photograph of table tipping, I mean, on a canvas, and some jewelry. We got a bunch of other things that we can raffle off. So we're going to probably do a raffle the last night. Every night there's an event. Monday nights, Victorian tea with tea leaf readings. I'm going to discuss flower readings and flower seances, talk about flower seances. And then we're going to do table tipping.
And now we're teaching the participants. It's not that they're going to watch the mediums do these. It's interactive.
It's
gonna be
interactive.
learning.
It's all interactive. And then I actually remember the whole thing. Tuesday night is Gary doing his psychic surgery. That's the word I'm looking for. Gary's doing psychic surgery. Wednesday night, Michael's doing billets, which is always exciting. He's excellent at the billet readings. And then Thursday night, Gary's doing a trance session.
Right. And that's all included.
This all included, yeah.
Yeah. And the other topics that you can take classes in are going to be learning trance to get into the physical state, precipitation, art, and slates. Meet your guides. That's I'm teaching that. That's more like learning how to blend. Transfiguration, scrying, and photography. That's just one day. Another day is automatic drawing, transfiguration, energy auras, and talking about the physical medium within. So there's at least 10 to 12 topics that are going to be covered.
Yeah, and everybody gets classes with each of the mediums.
So a lot of fun. But it doesn't look like we have any questions. So I'm going to lengthen it and say, if you have any non-physical mediumship questions, feel free, because you also got Mari and me here.
Well, I had a question actually, and thank you. I wanted to get the dates. I was trying to make notes. What's the actual dates of the seminar? You said it's Father's Day. It's
June 18th through the 22nd.
Through the 22nd. Okay, great.
Oh, Sue, do you want to mention you have an opportunity for them to take one day, and then you have a Zoom day or something?
Yeah, what we're doing is because there are some people that wanted to come but actually couldn't come all 4 days. So I do have a day pass for it. I've selected 2 for the day passes, but I have some other people coming the other days as well. And then on Wednesday, it's a Michael Shane Zoom day, because we're going to Zoom for my overseas friends and students. We're going to Zoom the we're going to Zoom the precipitated art class. Then Michael's going to Zoom the apports class, and then in the evening, Michael's doing the billets.
And that's all on Zoom on the 21st?
Yeah, what we're going to do on the 21st on Zoom is logistically, I'm going to do everything out of the auditorium that day, so that we can set up the cameras and set up everything and just be there all day long, broadcasting when the events are on.
Awesome.
And we even figured out a way for our distance people to do billets.
Cool. Well, I might sign up for that, because I would love to come. My calendar's a little packed around that time, but I might be able to do the Zoom. And so for people like me or anybody, how do you sign up? Do you sign up on your website? Do you sign up at Lilydale? Or
you can sign up on my website. I will take PayPal payments, and the email address for PayPal is spiritartgallery@gmail.com. Just say what you're signing up for. I'm collecting lists, and once I get the list, especially if you're on PayPal, I have your email address. So then I will send you an email confirmation of it, put you on the list, and then when we get closer to the date, I'm not sure which account we're using, mine or Julie's or both. So we'll send you the link in advance.
That sounds awesome. So you're trying to make it available for everybody, anyone that can get up to
So,
Lilydale or people
yeah,
that are
I
remote.
have a lot of students from Australia. And so especially with them, and I made it inexpensive enough. It's $75 for the whole day. And you can kind of come in and out. You'll be able to come in and out, a little bit too.
That
Yeah,
sounds
not,
great. Yeah, that's,
Okay.
I think it's
So
a
we
great
have one-
opportunity.
Physical
Um,
medium should
we
takes
do have a nice question
yeah.
from Karen McCarthy. Physical mediumship takes a lot of time to develop. That's absolutely correct.
Absolutely.
In fact, one of the greater physical mediums of last century, he retired in the beginning of this century, Stuart Alexander. I think he went 10 years before he got any phenomena. He was just about to throw in the towel after sitting religiously for 10 years. And then it
Yeah.
started. So it takes a very long time. And so she's wondering if you can do physical mediumship in the light now.
Yeah,
So-
well, let me talk about that. Okay. There technically the physical mediumship was when the medium created ectoplasma, and the ectoplasma is sensitive to the light, which is why most of the seances are done or developed in the dark, or that's why there's also a curtain over the cabinet for the medium, because that gives a sense of dark. There are physical mediums that have worked in the light. Famous ones from the past. I'm blanking on his
Daniel
name.
Douglas Home.
Hume, yeah,
Hume.
Daniel Douglas Hume was one that worked in the light, and I've heard about some other mediums, one from San Francisco that worked in the light as well.
But Sue, I don't think they were producing ectoplasm, were they?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
Hmm.
So it can happen. It can happen. And then the other thing is that some mediums now are working with energy rather than ectoplasm. And I'm not quite sure how the light affects that as much because, no, actually the energy medium that I saw, there was a lot of light in the room when he did his materialization. The room had light in it. And the Gary's working more in red light now. So they are, after you're developed to a certain degree, you can introduce some light into the seance room. Yeah, but usually when people are developing and starting, it's dark.
So I'm just going to add a comment because I sit for development, and I've always made I'm not like Gary or Michael or any of them. But we never got complete darkness in my office where I sit because it's a storefront. And I wasn't going to black out windows because I also used it for my mediumship business. So we got mostly dark, but you could definitely see shadows, etc. And lately, Spirit has turned down my lights. We put red light on because I like to do transfiguration.
Mhm.
And Spirit will turn the lights off. They want me sitting more in the dark, not turning the light on, and we're getting different phenomena, which I mentioned before. I'm finally getting my trumpet, which is a cylindrical
Yeah.
shape. It's not an actual music trumpet, but it's used to amplify the voice from Spirit. So levitating it is the first step towards developing it to use as an amplification for the spirit voices. And it's starting to go up and move a little bit because I'm in the dark more. So that was pretty cool. But you have to be careful. If you go to a physical seance, you can't turn the white light on if the medium is producing ectoplasm, because it can shock the system and the ectoplasm to go whip back into the medium's body and cause first, second, or third degree burns. It's nothing to joke. It's like putting your wet finger An electric socket. I'm sorry, guys, allergies.
That's okay. No worries. But yeah, I've heard the same thing, that it's very dangerous to turn the light on in a physical mediumship situation. So definitely you don't want to be doing that. But I noticed in the comments also the same person asked, what are billets? And
Okay.
maybe Sue can talk about that.
Yes, I just had Michael Shane explain billets the other night, so I'm going to try to remember what he said. Of course, he does a better explanation. I don't know if you're on my Facebook page, but I'll be posting the link to the show I just did with Julie and Michael that will tell you, he explains the billets. But basically what the billets are, and Michael puts 2 coins on his eyes, tapes them shut, puts 2 masks over that to make sure that people that he know that he absolutely cannot see. Because in the past there have been magicians that have done billets, and the way they used to do the billets was they would flip them, they would cheat and look at the questions and not do it mentally. No, the way it works for Michael is that a person has to be in print, it can't be cursive. You print a question on a piece of paper, it's folded up, put in a basket. Michael will pull a piece of paper out of the basket. Mind you, he's totally blindfolded. He asks people to put a number on it. So he will actually tell you the number, and he will answer the question that is on the billet. And I've seen him do it with almost 100% accuracy.
I saw him do that at the Lilydale Auditorium when I was up there, and it blew my mind. And he had Neil Raspowski, who's, for those that don't know, Neil used to be the
Neil
president of
Raspowski,
Lilydale, very upright, genuine fellow. And Neil was assisting him, but he had quarters and he was taped, and then he had a bandana, and then he was taped again. And literally, when he says numbers on the back of the card, people wrote 5-digit numbers. I mean, I wrote a 2-digit number, but other people wrote 5 digits. And he did like 48 of them at that sitting.
Wow.
Yeah. And one, he got the numbers inverted out of it was a 5-digit number, but he got all the numbers. He just mixed up, and like the other 48, he got 100%. He, whether he answers the questions, you have to rely on because he doesn't read the question, he just answers it. So, everybody was shaking their head. Yes, they understood it, or yes, that was the answer. Because, sometimes, I get a new job, and he would just answer it. So there wasn't a way to it wasn't like an evidential thing. It was, but they understood his answer as being for the question that they wrote. Nobody said they didn't understand. It was amazing. It really was.
No, he is, and he gets it from the ink. The vibrations from the ink in the card is how he does it. So that's what billets are. I mean, I've seen the fake ones too, where they stand up like this, and but out of the corner of their eye, they're really they're like reading the question. They're like one ahead or one behind in the stack. But there is a way to cheat. Now can't remember exactly how, but a lot of the magicians did that and so billets got a bad name. A lot of things in physical mediumship got a bad name because the magicians came in and started claiming that they could do all the same types of stuff the mediums could, and so they would work around and do fake stuff, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
you're always
obviously
going to
not.
have skeptics, it's fine. It's like, just stay away. Go with an open mind. I was pretty impressed. And I really like physical mediumship. Now, for those of you on Long Island, if you don't mind, Mary, I just want to mention this. Obviously not like Mari, not everybody can go up and spend 4 days at Lilydale for the symposium.
Yeah.
So I've invited Gary Mannion to come to Long Island after he's done working upstate. And he'll be at my office July 8th through the 11th. And he's doing 2 physical seances, limit of 15 people per seance. And that, yes, this one I will be blacking out the room with tinfoil. I don't mean the whole town is probably going to think I'm even wackier than I am. But my neighbors are used to it. I black out my home office for when I held my physical mediumship Zoom classes. So now I'll do it downtown in Northport. And if you're interested in having this experience, by all means, reach out to me. We have some seats left. We just started selling them. You cannot purchase them before you speak to me because I got to explain the rules. You know, one
Have
of
to
the
be
rules
interviewed,
is,
yeah.
yeah, you have to be able to sit for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can't get up and use the bathroom. You can't have your phone, even if your kids are home alone. So there's certain rules. So just call me up, email me, and I'd be happy to go over it. And if it sounds good, I think it's an opportunity. This is why I'm doing it. It's a lot of work on my part, but I'm trying to bring physical mediumship to Long Island so that people can experience it. And I'm very impressed with Gary's work.
So what I would say to you for people on Long Island, if they want to experience Michael and Gary, they could do the online Zoom event with me, with Michael, and then come and do the seances with you for Gary.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's an option, guys. You heard Mari talking about possibly joining in through the Zoom. So there is a 1-day Zoom option with Michael Shane and Julie Andrani and Sue. I'll be with the other students teaching trance and transfiguration, but that's not something you can, you can't really do it. I can do it. But it's got to have preparation. You got to black out your own rooms.
Right.
But anyway, so I hope you guys have enjoyed today's show. I know it's a little bit different for topics that Mari and I usually handle, but it's such an opportunity to experience both the symposium if you can do it. Really, it's one of those things. Plus, you get to take in Lilydale and everything Lilydale has to offer, like the ferry trails and the services and the shops.
And I think they're now opening the hotel.
Oh, good.
So some people wanted to stay there.
The Maple is really nice and haunted. Mari, before we sign off, sweetheart, do you have any events coming up?
I do. I was trying to think. Well, I wanted to let people know our next Spirit Chat show is May 25th, and we are going to be talking all about animals and how we connect to our furry friends and doing readings, and one of my favorite topics. So tune in for that if you have furry friends you would like to connect with and learn more about that.
Should they have a photo with them?
That would be helpful if they do. If you have a photo that you can show, if you want a reading, that always, that is always helpful if you have one, or you can send it through the chat or something if you know how to do that. I'm not sure I do. And in terms of events, I have May 9th. I'm actually going to do a Facebook Live. Haven't done that in a while with the Angel Lady, my friend Maura O'Leary. We're going to be she'll be doing angel readings, and I'll be doing, people animal readings. And so that will be at 3:00 on May 9th on my Facebook page. And also, I just signed up to be a part of the Mediumship Matters online school. And Hannah McIntyre is an amazing medium, and she is now offering an online school for people that are interested in all things mediumship, psychic, etc. And there will be teachers like myself that will be giving, different classes on subjects. And if you're interested in that, you can definitely go to Mediumship Matters podcast, and there will be information to sign up for that. So that starts June 1st, I believe.
Awesome.
And I'm sure, Winter, you have probably 10,000 things you always do.
I know. Um, yeah, I got to start putting some time out. I think I'm working 3 weeks straight, except for tomorrow, right? So Sunday, I will be at the Riverhead Public Library. We got about 70 people signed up, but the room can hold well over 100. No charge to come. And we're going to talk about mediumship, mental mediumship. What is it? And I'm going to do a demonstration of mental mediumship after I explain the process. I will be in Lilydale for the physical symposium, teaching trance, blending, and transfiguration. I will be teaching Reiki. I have a partner, Angela Williams-Jones, who's just amazing, and we'll be doing some Reiki classes in May. So that's all in person. I've also been connecting with a mediumship school online with the Squamish Medium in British Columbia. And so I'm actually teaching physical mediumship, but the students are going to have their windows blocked out and everything. And we're going to be signing me up to teach some trance classes online. What else are we doing? I'll be in Lilydale a second time in August teaching trance mediumship and blending and evidential mediumship. And I think that's it, because I haven't set my fall schedule up because I'm waiting for Boston Medical Center to give my daughter her work schedule for the year so that we might plan a vacation.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So once I know when I'm going to go away with Sierra, then I will schedule classes, because people have been pestering me. I didn't do any for the spring. I've just been, I don't know about you, but it's been crazy for private readings. People are really moved lately to get more metaphysical insight. So
yeah, for sure.
Sue, any upcoming events outside of the symposium?
Well,
I know
I'm doing well, I have my on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, I have my spirit art class, and on the 2nd and 4th Sundays online, I have my mediumship class through Victor and Wendy Zamet, which goes on all the time. And then I have we've got the symposium going, which is my main thrust of event, my main thrust at the moment. But I also have some classes in Lilydale this summer. I have intro to physical mediumship that I'm doing, and I have a healing jewelry class I'm doing where everybody will make a necklace. Yeah. And I have an automatic drawing class, which is another form of physical mediumship. So you can check those all out on the Lilydale website.
And don't you have a lovely radio show?
And I have my Tuesday. Yes, you're right. I have a Tuesday radio show called Spiritual Support with Dr. Sue. And this week coming up, I'm going to have my friend Ray Kazar, who has been doing some very interesting rescue work at cemeteries. And Spirit has been cooperating with him in ways that we just can't believe. So
awesome. You have the most interesting guests. You really do. So thank you, Sue, for taking the time out. I know it's busy this time of year with the symposium coming up, and I appreciate you coming on, because physical mediumship is part of my heart, and I always wanted to share the information. Thank you, Mari, for indulging me.
No problem. I'm very interested in it as well, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers will be interested. So thank you so much, Sue, for coming on. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Hopefully
Anytime.
I'll be able, to attend the Zoom one, because I think it would be very cool. I like to see things moving around the house, and I'm always like, oh, my friends are here. So
yeah, as long as they're not coming from your kids, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely don't want that.
Oh, all right, everyone. Can't wait to see you for our next show where it's just Mari and I and animals. And God bless you all, and have a great rest of the month.
Thank you.
Thank you.